Welcome to an interview with Melissa Lorena, the podcast for executives who go after what they want with curiosity, creativity, and courage. Hi, I'm Melissa. I'm a career strategist, and I want to help you shift your focus from landing a job at a Fortune 500 company to finally figuring out how you can build your own billion-dollar career. Sounds good? Then keep listening. Meet Gabriele Corcos. He's the creator, host, and producer of Extra Virgin on the cooking channel Food Network, a New York Times bestselling author, as well as a James Beard Award recipient. He's also a food futurist. Enjoy this sneak peek into our conversation. Gabriele shares both why owning a restaurant in New York City is a nightmare, as well as how he plans to incorporate technology on his Tuscan farm. How does New York compare through the lens of a chef?
A nightmare. In a good sense, if you have the guts for it. In a very scary sense, if you're somebody prone to succumbing to the weight of the pressure that a city like that demands. I loved and hated both California and New York for different reasons. You know, California had a fantastic weather, great produce, wonderful roads to drive my motorcycle, but life was a little bit too relaxed. You become a little complacent because it's really easy to build a cocoon around you. New York doesn't allow you that, because in order to have a cocoon around in New York, you need to be a millionaire. Otherwise, you're in people's faces all the time, the way that we were. Which is one of the reasons why we left California to raise our kids in New York. We wanted them to get out of private school and get into public school. We wanted them to confront themselves with the real citizens of the world and real people. So the son of the butcher, the daughter of the fireman, the occasional asshole, excuse the language, but I really wanted my kids, I wished for my kids to grow the set of cojones that my wife has. One of the reasons why I fell in love with my wife is her strength, her ability of just always plunge forward and always move ahead, regardless of what the peril can be, whatever you know the situation can be. And it's something that my kids absorbed well in New York City. From the chef's perspective, I've never been a chef. I grew up in the country. I learned to cook from my great-grandmother, my grandmother, my mother, the wives of the hunters, of the guys that worked the land, the farmers. So it is just, cooking is just part of who I am. The fact that when I arrived in LA, I discovered that that was an asset, and I decided to kind of like leverage my knowledge. It was just a fantastic timing. It was the very, very beginning of all the food shows, and then that moment in which cooks and chefs in general started getting elevated to the rock star stardom. And I consider myself extremely lucky because I was there in the very, very beginning. If I was to try now, I don't know if I'd have the time, the patience, and honestly, I don't even know if there's enough room left. There is a bubble that is about to burst, or the way that I see it already burst a while ago. If anything, the result is that chefs got finally the credit that they deserve, because it's a really demanding work.
Because you brought it up earlier, as far as like technology, right? So I'm trying to just imagine, I don't know why the thought of a mechanical cow appears in my brain, but I'm like, so where are you bringing technology innovation to what I would see as like historically super traditional sort of environment? Like, what's your
It'd be really
vision?
interesting. It will be really, really interesting. Well, my first thought is climate. 40 years ago, it was much easier for farmers to predict the weather. You remember, we had almanacs, they would print them, they would say, okay, this year we have these planets running like this, the weather is going to look like this is going to be the right month to plant this or to harvest this. Right now, investing in agriculture is extremely dangerous. All it takes is one storm, and your year of work goes to trash. And the way that the economy is precarious by definition these days, because of overpopulation, because incomes are not what we want them to be, you really cannot afford to lose a year of work because of inclement weather or because of bushfire. So the first technology deployment that I'd like to have is analysis of the weather, analysis of the soil, of the water, I would love to have some robotics in my fields. I don't know if you're aware of the I don't remember how they're called. Obviously, I have it on the tip of my tongue, but Boston Dynamics. Boston Dynamics are MIT kids that are developing fantastic robots up in Boston, and they have this dog-shaped robot that has a camera, that has a little hand, and you can use it for multiple uses. Right now, obviously, in dangerous environments like after a fire or during chemical spills or stuff like that where humans cannot go. But at the same time, you can program these machines to survey your land, walk around, take pictures, recognize molds on the leaf of your vines, report what is the presence of wild animals on the property, report the humidity of the soil, change in barometric pressure, all these different things. Technology in the kitchen for me is something that I haven't embraced just yet. I am much more of a hand and fire and direct approach to the ingredient that I want to cook. So as much as I find the 3 food printers interesting, maybe I'll get one to make desserts and to decorate my chocolate cakes. But I am not a big fan of sous vide or all these new ways of cooking. I am extremely traditional. And on one side, I also say, because I'm just lazy, I don't want to really learn new techniques in the kitchen. I am more interested actually into the heritage aspect of life in the kitchen. So on one side, I would like to grow my wheat, mill my flour, and make my own sourdough breads beginning to end. On the other side, I want to use technology to help me sell, to help me communicate with people, to make sure that my wheat fields are protected, maybe to study the process. I love the idea of using blockchain for traceability of ingredients. I think it makes commerce much, much safer. But again, Florence is a city of 500,000 people. So by definition, for the most part, when we go in a restaurant, you're probably seeing the animals around the valleys, the stuff that we eat. It's so different than being in New York, where you literally do not know where your food is coming from. When I go to the butcher in my hometown, I know where they're coming from. I've seen them riding my motorcycle or taking a side road 2 weeks prior. It is a very, very different approach. And that's one of the reasons why I do believe that one day I'd like to do something in local politics, possibly run for mayor or do something like that. I believe that the safety of our future relies on small villages and not on big cities. The big cities are models that are just too risky. They are exposed to too many issues that can rise and make your life difficult. A small village with a good school that works, a good hospital that takes care of birthing mothers and elderly and the occasional trauma, and decent food, it's really all we need. We need space, we need open air. It is true that by living in a city, that's where ideas meet, and that's where you have progress and fast development. But again, I'm 48. I don't care about that anymore. Now I do care about my next 30 years and about the kind of world that I will leave to the people after me. So this land has been, at a standstill for 40 years, and it's the right time to bring it back to life. But it has to be done in a new way. I want to figure out a way. What is the next model of agriculture for something that is so attached to its own heritage that doesn't feel that I'm raping my land?
Join us on melissalorina.com/podcast to hear this entire interview. You never know how hearing about someone else's journey can impact your own.